Amateur Traveler is in its 20th year now, but can you imagine if I had people on the show who had never been to the destination, but had just read about it or seen a movie about it? That wouldn't make any sense at all, and you wouldn't listen. We all know how important it is to receive advice from people who know a destination to get the most authentic local experience. And a great option for experiencing this is Explore Worldwide and their authentic small group adventures, led by local tour leaders, perfect for solo travelers who want to meet like minded people with a desire for adventure. I'm often an independent traveler, but two of my last three trips were with small group tours because they organize everything and it's a lot easier. If you want to recreate the tour I did to Malta, they have a Malta and Gozo Discovery Tour. I'm intrigued by one of their tours called A Taste of Sicily. The company again is Explore Worldwide, and visit exploreworldwide.com to learn more. And thanks to Explore Worldwide for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. The nights are long, the days are short, and the weather is chilly to downright cold, depending on where you are. It's a good time to slip into a Quince iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at only $50. You can treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price with Quince. If you really want to dive into luxury, you can check out their leather handbags, washable silk shirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for at Quince, all the prices are 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and they do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the middleman. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing processes. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. But you've already heard me rave about my Quince travel pants. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Got my bags packed on a roll. I'm heading out there and I'm ready to go. I'm looking real good in my passport photo. Oh, no.
Amateur Traveler, episode 750. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about tea plantations and volcanoes, a farmer's market and vineyards, canyoneering and cheese, as we go to the islands of the Azores.
I know that I should be heading home, but maybe not today.
Welcome to the Amateur Traveler. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. Let's talk about the Azores. I'd like to welcome to the show Maria Lawton from AzoreanGreenBean.com and also from Maria's Portuguese Table on PBS. And Maria has come to talk to us about the Azores. Maria, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
And first of all, what is your connection to the Azores?
Well, I was born in the Azores.
Mm-hmm.
My family has lived in the Azores for about 5 centuries. And I can trace my family's lineage from the first island that was discovered in Santa Maria to back to the mainland in an area called Trás-os-Montes, which is behind the mountains, which is on the border of Spain and exactly where Portugal began.
Excellent.
So my roots are very deep.
And first, let's put the Azores on the map. What are
Yes.
the Azores?
The Azores are these 9 islands, volcanic islands, this archipelago of 9 islands in the very middle of the Atlantic. It is about, if you were on a plane ride from the East Coast, from Boston, it's about a 4.5-hour flight to get there. And it is how can I explain it? There are these hidden, beautiful, semi-tropical islands that people have no idea that they're there, but they're the most gorgeous, beautiful things.
Well, and you get into my next question is, why should someone go to the Azores?
Sometimes I talk about it, and the people from the Azores go, well, we don't want to tell too many people how special is, because we don't want to be too inundated with everyone. But it is these pristine islands. And when I say pristine, they are the most lush, they are the most beautiful, green, just rugged coasts. They're just so beautiful, and something that I think everyone in their lifetime needs to see, because when you are there, you wonder to yourself, how come I didn't know about this before? And why haven't I been here before? And goodness knows I'm going to come back here more often. So that is, I'm telling you right now, that is exactly how someone will feel.
Well, and I should say for longtime listeners of the show, we have done an episode on the Azores. It's just that it's been almost 10 years. So it seemed time to revisit this island destination. And Maria, if you have someone who is coming to the Azores and they've got, say, a week to 2 weeks, where are you going to send them?
I'm going to first send them to the island that I'm most comfortable in, because that is where I was born and where my paternal side of the family still resides in, and that is the island of San Miguel. The island of San Miguel is also called the Green Island, and it is the largest of all of the islands. So we've got the Azores with all the 9 islands. You're looking at a population of over 250,000 people divided between all 9 islands. With San Miguel, you're looking at 137,000 people just in that island. So you can see how that is the largest island. And the smallest island, I have to say this, the smallest island is Corfu, with only 468 inhabitants. So we're talking a big gamut of the way. But if someone is going to say, I want to go to the Azores, I want to be there for a week, I want to see as much as I can, San Miguel is the place to go. And let me tell you, I'm going to start when you get on that plane, and I'm going to kind of guide you as you land and where you land and what you can do in a week. And I'll say this much. Sometimes a week is not enough. But if you only have a week, I got it. I got your back here. So from Boston, the airline is Azores Airline. TAP is also doing it. That they're both Portuguese airlines owned by the Portuguese government. But Azores Airlines is the one that usually is the one that's more often during the week. So you leave Boston, you are on a 4.5-hour red-eye flight, and it leaves it in the evening. And when you land, it is around 6 o'clock in the morning. So sleep as much as you can on that 4.5 hour, because once you land, it's go time. And so you land there. If you've planned to drive while you're there, it is a very easy drivable island. My husband, who does not speak or read Portuguese, has no problem driving through the island, and he finds it very easy. When you order a car, there are plenty of agencies to order one, to get one there. Make sure that you bring with you something to put your smartphone on in your car, because not all the cars we found have that. So it's either I'm holding his smartphone for guidance of going here and there, because we'll put in an address and it'll take us to where we need to go. So that was the one thing we keep finding that we need to bring with us every time we do go. And then when you're staying there, Punta Delgada, you're going to land in Punta Delgada, which is the capital of San Miguel. And there are so many different hotels. My favorite hotel, there's a couple of 5-star hotels if you want to go 5-star. There's Azores, there's Ben Saud Group, also the Atlantico is there. That's also, they're both 5 stars. I like to go to the one right in the middle. It's called the Marina, and it's also a Ben Saud property, and it is facing the marina. It has this wonderful restaurant inside for breakfast in the morning. Breakfast is part of your being there. They have a spa downstairs if you wanted that, exercise, all of that amenities are there. But let me tell you, you're going to be spending a lot of time outside. And the Azores runs on a different time than we do.
Okay.
If we are a go, 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 go kind of person, you're going to have to bring that down a lot.
So it's another example of island time.
It really is.
Okay.
And sometimes when I get there coming from the United States and I go to see family and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, and today I have to do that. And the first thing they say to me is, calma, calm down, calma, calma, Maria, calma, calm down. There's enough time for everything, like everything. And that is the epitome of the whole island. Everything is at a slower pace. They want you to walk down the waterfront and see what's going on. Though the cobblestones or all of those streets, they're all walkable. There's all walkable sidewalks to go through and see all the shops if you want to shop, to see the beautiful arches that welcome everyone into the city of Punta Delgada. In Punta Delgada, there's also an indoor farmers market. And the indoor farmers market is open every day throughout the year, with the exception of holidays, of course. There's a lot of religious holidays they have there because they're predominantly Roman Catholic. So if there's some holidays, shops are going to be closed, all kinds of things will be closed, businesses will be closed, that kind. So there is an indoor farmers market that I always love to go in there. And I also tell people, go in there, walk through that farmers market. And what you're going to find is you're going to find the actual farmer that grows all of that there selling his goods. So you're going to see these amazing fruits, these amazing vegetables, everything that's in season, because Portuguese food or Azorean food is our food we eat within our season. So if you go in the summertime, you're going to see whole different kinds of fruits and vegetables than you do if you go in the wintertime. So it's really good to see what is in season to enjoy that, because when you go to the restaurants, that's how they cook as well. They cook what's in season. So in the summertime, you're going to have a watercress soup that's like light and airy and all of that stuff. But in the wintertime or in the fall, you're going to have like a pumpkin soup or a carrot soup, or everything goes within its season. And then there's also the purveyors of cheese. So you're going to see a cheese shop that you're going to be able to see the fresh cheese that is made daily, because in the island, they say there are 2 cows to every person. And you're going to see that when you drive through the countryside. There are so many cows, and cows have the right of way. So if you're driving through the island and the cows are going to be coming, they have the right of way. The car does not. The cow does. And cows are out on the field with grass-fed. Everything is organic. Everything is just amazing. So when you're in that farmer's market, you're going to be able to taste some of that cheese if you want to. If they're too busy, sometimes they have a hard time doing that. But you'll be able to see all that. You'll see a butcher shop. You'll be able to see the flower shops. There are so many flowers, and it's just really, your senses will go into overload with the smells. And some of the places, they will let you taste some of the fruits and vegetables if you ask the farmer. And what I found funny is that a lot of the farmers there, a good percentage of them do speak English. They'll come first and speak Portuguese, but a lot of them have been to America, have family in America or in Canada or other parts of the world that speak English, and they'll say, I'm sorry, my English is very broken, but let me tell you, their English is wonderful compared to our Portuguese, the opposite. So don't be afraid to speak to them in English, because some of them, if not them, their son that's with them or whatever, because English is taught as a second language as well as French. So it's something that they understand, and so don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of that. Now, besides the farmer's market that I always tell people to go through, there is an area when you are walking through and you see the arches of the city, and everything is walking. And there's some parts that they close off to cars completely. And there is this little restaurant, little hole in the wall called Louvre de Miquelens. And Louvre de Miquelens used to be an apothecary. It used to be an apothecary many years ago. And then after that, it was a milliner's shop. So it went from selling things to make you feel better to hats, but now they have this little unique cafe, and they put out really amazing desserts and coffees, as well as little sandwiches. They're very into everything that's made on the island. Everything is fresh. So you're going to have like this amazing yogurt. If you're a yogurt and fruit and nut kind of person that you enjoy that, you're going to find the best delicious yogurt on that island. And like I mentioned before, we have happy cows in that island, which creates amazing butters, which creates amazing milk, which creates amazing yogurts, which ice cream. I mean, it just goes on and on. And in that shop, I had one of the most delicious. It was early on for me, and I'm like, I don't want anything too big. I just want something. And they said, oh, we have this yogurt with fruits that were freshly picked today from whatever, and some almonds. And I think you're going to like that. And I had that. It was like the best yogurt I've ever had. It was like so delicious.
Now, Maria, I know I'm not going to have any trouble getting you to talk about the food. I want to talk a little more about some of the sights we're going to see, too.
Oh, God. See, I always put sights in food. Okay. I'm sorry. And that's just me.
Knew this was going to happen. Not a problem.
It was going to happen. So, okay. So when you're in Punta Delgada and you walk through, again, very accessible, you want to walk through. There are people who give out tours. You can take that. You can do a day tour. There are tuk-tuks where you can actually go and sit there, and we'll take you through the very important parts of the city, whether it's the military museum that you can see that's up against the waterfront, or you can see different churches and different buildings that were built, just gorgeous architecture that's there, as well as museums. So you can do a very cultural kind of tour within just Punta Delgada. So you can be in Punta Delgada without a problem, 2 or 3 days. You can be stationed in Punta Delgada. You can stay in that hotel for, I want to say, half of the trip, okay? Because that is so central to where the island, how the island is situated. The Punta Delgada is located in the south part of the island. So if you go to the west, if you go to one side of the island, which is Mosteiros, which is the furthest you can go west, it takes about an hour by car, okay? And in the same way, if you leave there and you go east to the very northeastern part of the island, which is Nordeste, that is also an hour. So it literally is a very central part of that whole island. And where you said you had spoken to someone 10 years ago, well, now we have highways. So the highway will take you to all of these places in a very short period of time. The only thing you're going to be missing along the way, which was, I could say 10 years ago, was going through a lot of the villages. So you're going to be missing a lot of that village stop. But there are certain villages along the way that if you have time within that week when you're going west to Mosteiros, Mosteiros is the best place to see the sundown. A sunset in Mosteiros is the best you're going to ever see on that island. The skies look like they're not real, like they're painted on. And it is the most beautiful place. And right now, because people know that we're going there to see the sunset, there are like little food trucks that are set up in an area where you go in the place where the Merduno do to see that sunset. And they have cocktails set up for you and little appetizers to have. So you can sit, bring a blanket with you, sit down, or you can bring a picnic with you or your own bottle of wine and watch the sunset. It is just amazing. And also in that south heading west, before you go to Mosteiros, another trip, you need to go to Sete Cidades. Now, Sete Cidades is called the Seven Cities. And when first you have to drive up to the Vista do Rei, which is the viewpoint of the king. And when you go to Vista do Rei, you look down and you see these two bodies of water, and it's separated by a bridge. And half of the water is blue and half of the water is green. And there's a folklore thing where it's almost like a Romeo and Juliet thing where there was a princess or a woman in the one side who had green eyes and the prince who had blue eyes. And the two families didn't like each other, but they loved each other. So their tears is what created the color of the water. But in all actuality, we all know that one is surrounded by trees and the other one gets the reflection of the sky. So we have the one that's green and we have one that's blue, but it is a sight to be seen. And it's a beautiful thing to see. But what I love to do, and majority of tour people will not suggest it, which I don't understand. They just want you to go to the viewpoints, see the viewpoints, and then you're out of there. And I like to go into that village that's at the bottom in the crater, because you're looking literally at the crater of a volcano that has now flourished and now has a village inside that crater. And so if you go to the village of Sete Cidades, there is this one little restaurant that my husband and I found that it is incredible. And it is called Casa do Chá, which is House of Tea. And the tea they have is puejo, which is in the mint family, and it is the only place that serves it on the whole island. And it's a family-run business. It also has a little hotel. Not a hotel, it's almost like a little inn that's part of it. So if you really want to get away from it all completely and settle down and do nothing but rest, that is the place. You just go right down there, and there aren't that many tourists that make their way down into that crater. And the people there are just the sweetest. Again, they all spoke English. My husband speaks English. Of course, I speak Portuguese, but he had no problem there. The food, everything was wonderful. Now, after you've stayed down there, you're going to go climb back out of the crater. There are two ways to get in and two ways to get out. There are some craters there's only one way in and one way out, but this one you have two to either side of it. And you go back out, and now again you're going back to Ponta Delgada.
Now, before we go back, there's something that I'm seeing about every fourth picture I see of the island has a crater walk that I think is in that area.
They can be crater walks, but that I see that more in Lagoa de Fogo. I see that, which is more to the middle of the island. But we can talk about crater walks, absolutely.
I was thinking that might be what we did before we went and relaxed at the tea house. So,
you know what? Before we relaxed in the tea house, there are other things that you can do.
Okay.
If you're a more athletic person, whereas my husband and I are not, but if you are a very athletic person, there are people who, my husband and I took the drive down to the crater. There were people who hiked down to the crater, and we would see people hiking along that trail down to the mountain to go down into the crater. We also had people in those lakes where they would either be canoeing in the lakes, as well as just paddling through on like a surfboard, standing on a surfboard and kind of surfing, not surfing, but paddling through those lakes. As well as there are people who like to fish the lakes. There's a lot more. If you're saying, I don't want to sit and do nothing and relax, there is always something with nature to do, to get out, to be around, to do that. And that is found in all the different craters throughout the island.
I think the one that I'm talking about, and I cannot pronounce Portuguese, but my best shot would be Miradouro de Boca do Inferno. So basically the viewpoint of the mouth of the volcano.
The Inferno is of hell.
Oh, hell. Okay. Well, there we go. Of the mouth of hell.
Yes, it's the mouth of hell. And there are people who absolutely, you have to have a guided tour.
Okay.
I would not suggest people to just go on their own and just hike it, because there's specific trails that you need to go on it. There are guides that lead you through it to lead you down to the bottom of that crater and out. There are a lot of people who also like to camp by those craters, by those lakes in the crater. There is a lot of that throughout the whole island. And that is just one of them. There's also, in the middle of the island, there's one called Lagoa de Fogo, which that one, again, is another crater lake that people will hike down to the bottom, will camp overnight down there. And once again, that one's an easier one that you can do it by yourself. But the one where it's the Inferno, that one, I would...
The Mouth of Hell, you ought to have a guide. Okay,
yes,
that seems that makes some sense to me.
Yes, and the other thing about the center of island, where the south is Ponta Delgada, the north is Ribeira Grande. Ribeira Grande is the northern part of the island is all about surfing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That whole side, you have an area called Santa Barbara, where they have surf lessons for people that want to learn how to surf. They have canyoning tours where you're going to be climbing up a waterfall. You're going to be propelling off of it. You're going to be walking through a lush forest of sorts. Again, these are all guided tours. When I was there with my family, when I brought my son-in-law, my future son-in-law, my husband, they were like, oh yeah, we're going to go canyoning. And then we're going to do surfing. We're going to learn how to surf. And one of the days that we were there, that we were set up to go surf, they had to call it off because the weather in San Miguel, there are people who say there are sometimes 4 seasons in a day. And you can go from having a beautiful day, beautiful weather, to winds and rains, and you just cannot get out in the water. And that was one of the days that we had set up to go, and it turned out the water was just too strong. The undercurrents were just too heavy that they would not allow for anyone to go surfing.
Got it.
So be warned of that. So when you want to go surfing, just know that you are really in the hands of nature on that one, on every given day. But there is the canyoning that was like, oh my God, I can't wait to propel down a waterfall, because there are waterfalls. There are waterfalls throughout this island, which is just amazing and beautiful. So it's not just, again, like I said in the beginning, taking your time and relaxing. It really is what you want to make out of your tour. So you can get to pick and choose what you want. Also, in the northern side of the island, in the Ribeira Grande, there is the only tea plantation in all of Europe is located there. And it is called Chá Guariana. It is in the 8th generation of plantation owner. It is strictly run by the women of one family, and it is the most amazing tea you could ever have. And it is all organic because of where the island is situated and the winds and so many distance from the ocean. There are no pests. There are no bugs that will go onto the plant. So there are no pesticides ever used in growing the tea leaves. It is the only place I will drink green tea. For those that are out there that love green tea, that's wonderful. But for me, my taste buds, I taste dirt and twigs when I drink regular green tea. And that green tea is incredible. And I think anyone that ever try it, I don't think you could ever try any other green tea. It's just beyond anything. But besides this very large plantation of teas, there is also a very small boutique called in Port Formose, which is right a little bit further down the road from Chá Guariana. And it's Chá Port Formose, and it's a very small little tea plantation. It's been there now for, I want to say, more than 10 years. Not as big and not as large. I mean, it's a little boutique little place, but it has amazing views. Has amazing views from it. So all you do is you take a little drive further down, you go in, it's free to go in. You don't have to pay anything to go to these places that I've mentioned. And when you go to Guariana, they give you a free cup of tea to try. They want you to try the tea. And they give you a video of how tea came to the Azores, how it was brought there by 2 men from China. Because we had a colony in Macau. And we had that relationship where they came and they taught how to grow these tea leaves plants. So it is grown and it is harvested the very same way for all of these centuries, which is incredible. It's just incredible.
And so that means picked by hand. usually in the
Picked by
traditional
hand.
fashion.
Yeah. And sorted by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll let you go through the factory,
Mm-hmm.
and you will see the women. Mostly it's women. It's the men that are picking the leaves, and it's the women that are going through it after it's dried. They show the process of drying and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they are the ones who are going through picking it. And you have the broken leaf, which is a more milder tea. You've got
Right.
the green tea, the orange pekoe, and then the black tea. So there's different variations of the tea from one plant, which I
Right.
never knew.
No, it's the drying process that makes it green
yes.
tea or black tea. Yeah. Or oolong tea.
Yes, it's just incredible. So that's something I definitely like people to go to because it's also the history, a lot of history in that.
Right. Sure.
And you get to enjoy it. And then with Porto Formoso, the Chá de Porto Formoso, it's smaller, beautiful views. They let you walk the grounds. They also have a tea house, and you can sit in it and enjoy. But that one, you do have to pay. You have to pay for the tea. And they also have biscuits. They also sell a little biscuits. So you would enjoy your tea with biscuits, which I don't know if you know this, Chris, but it was Portugal that introduced England to tea time.
I did not know. I knew they introduced them to port, obviously, but I did not know they introduced them to tea time. That makes some sense.
Because our queen, Catarina, was married Prince Charles, so it became queen and king in Britain. And she was always used to having her tea time at 4:00. And when she went to England, everyone was having wine. And she was like, no, I'm used to tea. So it was a thing in her court that started with tea time. And then eventually it got out that they drink tea. So everyone else is drinking tea. And then it went on and on and on. But in Portugal, we've always had that afternoon to have tea and to have our lunch.
All thanks to Catherine of Braganza, I want to say.
You got it!
There we go. I can
Yes.
Google with the best of them.
Yes.
During the time of the Restoration, Charles II. I did not know that.
Yes. Yes. So, and that is something, again, where when I tell that to people, they go, no, the English. I said, no. It was the Portuguese queen that introduced that. And we, as part of her dowry, that India Tea Company, whatever,
Sure.
that was Portugal's at one time. That was given to England as a part of the dowry. So, and let me tell you, it is the oldest connection, any two countries together, still to this day, is Portugal and England.
Well, yeah, there have been numerous things that have tied the countries together since then, too, including fighting Napoleon. So, yeah.
It's just really amazing how there's so much history, even in drinking a cup of tea. It's wonderful. But so when you're in Beira Grande, the oldest crater, it's called Caldeira Velha, which is the oldest crater. Old crater. Yeah.
I could get there.
And it is the oldest one where you can go in, and it is a hot springs.
Oh, okay.
And you can go in. They've redone it now, where now you have places where you can change your clothes. They have towels where you can get the towels. Because let me tell you, when you go into hot springs and it has that heavy minerals in it,
Sure.
it's going to look orange to you. And you're going to go, oh my God, what is that? And that is the iron. It oxidizes with oxygen. So that is the color that you're going to get. But when you're wearing your bathing suit, if there is any white on your bathing suit, it's going to turn orange.
Sure. Seen that before.
Yes. So forewarned for anyone who wants to bathe or go into those, that you need to make sure, number one, your bathing suit, you don't care if it turns orange, or make sure that you don't wear a white bathing suit. So that's really important to that. But that is a place where you can go and enjoy yourself in soaking and all that. And there are a lot of properties to those mineral baths that people find very good for people who have achy bones or whatever it is and all that stuff. But you can also find that in Ribeira Grande. So Ribeira Grande is a beautiful area to drive through. The center of Ribeira Grande, you can park your car, and there's this beautiful park that you can enjoy some time in. There's little restaurants, there's little cafes, you can walk around. Very easy, very, very easy. They even have a chocolatier in that village where their chocolates are incredible. So there are all of these places that you can go in Ribeira Grande and spend your time there. Then you can go back to Ponta Delgada. If Ponta Delgada is going to be that spot where you're going to be, Personally, I spend my time half in Punta Delgada and the other half, I just move to Furnas.
Okay. Now, if you had a week, you would spend it all on San Miguel.
I would.
Okay. You know better than I. You've got 500 years of experience here, so.
Well, the thing is there's just so much to do. And I can actually, I really can say that every time I go back with my husband, and I do go back once or twice every year there is something new. There's something that they've added on, that they've changed, that they've made even like it opened up something else or discovered something. I mean, this is just, there's always something new. But in between everything, there's a lot of wonderful old that needs to be looked at.
One question I would have, though, is there a certain type of person that you might send to one of the other islands? If you really like something, you should go instead to...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think if you are all about wines,
okay.
If you love
You're speaking
wine,
my language.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, in San Miguel, there's now 3 different wineries, whereas before there was only like one and the wine was, it was okay. The best, I'm sorry, but it's true. But now
we're looking for honesty. That's okay.
Yeah. Right now, you've got really wonderful winemakers in there that are really turning out amazing wines. And we had gone to a wine tasting in Fenage de Luche. And it's this gentleman who took over this old plantation that grew oranges. And he started growing these grapes there and making wine. And he only makes very little amount, so it hardly ever leaves the island. So that's just really up and coming, the one from San Miguel. But real wines that have been like, oh my God, have been nurtured, have grown, and sometimes really never leave those islands besides going to the mainland, or really wonderful wine connoisseurs that really get their hands on it, is in the island of Pico. Okay. And the island of Pico has the highest peak in all of Portugal. You can see the volcano. I mean, sometimes it snows and you have some snow up there. It's kind of hard to imagine volcanic islands with snow on the top of the mountain, but you have that. And their wines are grown differently than we can imagine. They grow the wines very low to the ground. Now, we have to understand, they have more stones on Pico, basalt stones. It's a very rocky island, the most rockiest island. And what they did, the people of Pico, very smart and ingenious, they took those rocks and created walls around their vines. Okay. So what happens is they plant the vines very low to the ground so that the sea salt, the sea air will not burn the plants. Mm-hmm. During the day, the sun heats up the stones, the basalt stones that surround the vines. And then at night, because at night it becomes cooler, it radiates out the heat. So the vines always stay warm. And it's planted in, of course, volcanic soil. And it creates the most delicious wines, the most amazing wines that, I have to say, sometimes never leaves Portugal. It stays within Portugal. Mm-hmm. And I have to say now a little bit of history. Russian czars would only have wines of Pico.
Okay. It's good to be the king.
It's good to be the king, isn't it? And when you go there, you're going to, the whole island is all about the wines. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to see lots of different vineyards. You're going to see a lot of different wines being produced. And like I said, amazing wines that you have not tasted, and you will be able to taste it unless you are there. When I'm in San Miguel, I ask for wines of Pico. And you're able to get that there. So it's a type of thing where if that's your place, that's the way you go. If you love, how can I explain it? Cheeses. If you're a cheese person, oh my God, if you love cheeses, any kind of cheese, and I love cheese, and the smellier the cheese, the better for me. And
You had
so,
me up until there, but okay.
oh, but let me tell you, it could smell, and then all of a sudden, you just don't smell it, just smell it. You had to taste it. And then once you taste it, it's a whole different thing. And the aroma is just completely different in your mouth, and it takes over. And the island of Saint Georges is the island of cheeses. So it is the only island that makes cheese that has the DOP sign. It has that certificate saying this is authentic. The government sees it as a thing of Saint Georges cheese. And Saint Georges cheese, everyone says, Saint Georges cheese. There's actually two different types of Saint Georges cheese, or I should say even more than that. There are two different companies of Saint Georges cheese. The oldest company is Tapu, and it's located in the area of Tapu in Saint Georges, and they make a 3-month cheese. So
Okay.
Tapu cheese is the fattiest, it's the creamiest, it's the butteriest cheese. So it's very mild. So it's wonderful to melt. It's wonderful to enjoy. If you like that creaminess, that kind of cheese, that's the cheese you want. And then you have, the other one's Tapo. The other one is Saint Georges cheese. That's the name of the company, Saint Georges cheese. Even though the other one is Tapo Saint Georges cheese, the other one is just Saint Georges cheese. And so Quiche Saint Georges, they have different ages where they age the cheese. So you have a 3-month cheese, a 7-month, a 10-month, a 12, and a 24-month. And each, as they get older, there are people here in the United States that have never had a 24-month. They only think there's a 3 and a 7th. And there are so many different ones.
So are we getting to a semi-hard and a hard cheese then at 24 months?
Very hard.
Okay.
The 24-month is almost like a Parmesan.
Okay.
You can grate it, and it is incredible to taste. They're also doing now cheeses, and that is throughout all of the islands. They are adding herbs into the cheeses. So you can have cheese, a soft cheese that has garlic in it, a soft cheese that has parsley in it. You have cheeses that have different herbs that, you're thinking like, what the heck is in this? So they are very creative in infusing flavors into the softer cheeses. So it is the cheese, the DOP cheese, the place to go is Saint Georges. And I have to tell you, it was the people, the Flemish, who brought their cows, because again, all the islands were not only inhabited by people that came from mainland Portugal, but also people that came from France, people that came from the Dutch came in, the Germans came in, all different parts of the world came in. But it was the Flemish that brought their cows that they would make their cheese with, and started making the cheese there. So the same way that they made it then is the same way they make it now. And if you were to go to a cheese shop if you went to Holland and you went to a cheese shop, you would find some cheeses that taste like the Portuguese cheese.
Got it.
It's so interconnected. It really is. And then there is one island, it's the third island, second largest, and it's called the third island. It's Terceira, which means the third. And I know. How can you? It's that obvious. And they had a lot of Moorish influences in that island.
Okay.
So you have a dish called alcatra. So if you go there, you're going to see food that's cooked in these clay pots that's very similar to the tagine.
Yeah, sure.
That is cooked low and slow all day, and more cinnamon in their food. Their sweets are a little different. And every island is a little bit very off. You're not going to see as lush. In some islands, like Pico is not as lush. Every island is different.
Right. Well, I saw São Miguel, the nickname is the Green Island.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, and it is lush. And it's hard to imagine. They call it the Hawaii of Europe.
Right.
And because you have, obviously, it's volcanic islands, you have still the waterfalls, the lush greens, the springs, the water springs that come out of water that is just incredible, to mineral water that we still have that you can go and drink from. All of these things that are just incredible. And when people who've gone to Hawaii in Europe because they thought, or they've gone to the Caribbean for a holiday, have now discovered the Azores, they're like, oh my God, how come I didn't know about this place? And this is so close to us. And here it is. It's because it's been a very well kept secret.
Well, I'm going to start to wrap you up here, but before I do, I'm going to take you back to San Miguel. Is there any place else that we can't stop talking about that island without mentioning?
Furnish.
Okay.
For me, that's the place. My family's from Lagoa. They've always lived in that area of Lagoa. Lagoa is about a half hour not even a half hour, 10 minutes by car from Punta Delgado. But we're in Lagoa. It's a city also, Lagoa. Mm-hmm. But I feel a connection to Furnish. Now, Furnish is on the southeastern part of the island. Furnish is in the mouth of the volcano of the island.
Okay.
So when you go to Furnish, you're traveling down into a crater again. And it is literally, the village is in the mouth of the volcano. So you can see the steam coming up out of different spots within that village. And the place that I love to go to a hotel, and it's called Terra Nostra.
Okay.
Which is our land.
Mm-hmm.
It's the translation. And I like to go to Terra Nostra. If you stay in the Hotel Terra Nostra, they have a 30-acre botanical garden that is part of Terra Nostra, that is part of the hotel. So when you stay at Terra Nostra, you have access to that 30-acre botanical garden the whole time you're there. Now, when you're there in the garden, it's, again, part of a family. A family owns this. The Ben Saoud family owns it, and it's run by families still. Mm-hmm. And in the garden, which they allow visitors to come in during the day, certain hours during the day. But when you stay there, you can go early in the morning when there's no one there, late at night, anytime you want. They have a very large pool that is a mineral pool in the center of the park. And you have people that are there. If you cannot swim, you can go in there because it'll go right up to the top. I'm 5'2", and it goes right to my shoulders. So you can go in without a problem. They also have 2 smaller pools that the water is coming in, being heated by the volcano.
Okay.
It is the most amazing experience you could have. And that one, they have little ledges inside that you can sit in it and just relax. And when my husband and I land in Punta Delgado, we usually, before we settle, we drive to Furnish. We go to the springs and we soak in that, because we find our jet lag is no more after that.
That's fun.
And it is beyond how amazing it is. And one of the things that they also do differently in Furnish that they don't do anywhere else, maybe Ribeira Grande, because they have Caldeira Velha there.
Yep.
But they have a dish called o cozido. Now, o cozido is food that is cooked in volcanic steam.
Okay.
So they have these pots that go in, these tubes that go into the earth, and it is cooked by the pressure of the volcano. So it's Earth's pressure cooker. And a cozido is a boiled dinner. And anyone who goes to Furnish, you have to experience the pools. You have to experience the dinners, the cozido, which they have restaurants throughout there. Tony's restaurant is one of them that does so many. They also do it at Ben Saoud's. They also do it, they do it at different places. So that is, you're going to be able to find it. The other thing that you're going to have to try when you're there in Furnish, which is also something that comes out of Furnish, is a sweet called bourgeois, which is our version of a sweeter English muffin thing that is incredible to try. But I could spend more than half, if I'm going to relax, to do it there. Because in the evening, it's like silence. If you're hustle and bustle, you'll stay in the city. If you want to get away from it all, you can go to Setsidaj, go down there in that crater, or you can go to Furnish and go into that crater. And it is...
Karma.
It's just incredible. It's just an incredible thing.
Excellent. And of course, one of the things that vexes me about Portuguese is that I'm trying to look up as you're pronouncing the name of this town, and it's spelled furnace.
Yes. Yes.
but it took me a while to figure out that that's what you were saying. But
Yeah, Furnas.
I have that trouble with Portuguese. As we go to wrap this up, you were standing in the
Yes.
prettiest spot. Let's just say in San Miguel. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
Oh my God. There's so many. Oh, Chris, you're going to have to make me pick one, huh? Oh, God. All right. There's a few. But there's one that always brings me tears. I don't know why. And we didn't even mention the place, and it's in Vila Franca do Campo.
Okay.
And it is on our way to Furnas. We always stop along there.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be at one point Furnas, or I should say Vila Franca used to be the capital at one point until there was an earthquake.
So it's the French village in the field or something like that.
Yeah, Vila Franca do Campo. And the actual village is an inlet out there. And then, but you go uphill and there's a chapel and you drive. Oh my God, you're driving as if like on steep road, like you're afraid you're going to back up and you're going to go.
Okay.
But you keep going and it is up on a hill. There is about 110 steps you need to take to get all the way up to the chapel. And it's called Our Lady of Peace.
Okay.
And when you get up there, oh my goodness, I'm going to start getting... It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's just, you see the ocean, you see the village, you see the inlet, you see the green, and you're up there almost like you're in the clouds. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking out into this just beautiful, picturesque sight that you say, oh my God, this is a painting. This can't be real. But it is.
Excellent. On the opposite side, one thing that makes you laugh and say only in the Azores.
Oh my goodness. You were going to get me in trouble, Chris. Oh.
If I do my job right, yes.
Oh, only in the Azores. Oh my God. Okay. So there are feasts every weekend.
For various saints and such.
Oh, for various saints.
Yep.
It's like every village has how can I explain it? It starts with the Feast of Santo Cristo. That's like the beginning of like feast season. And that's usually like the end of May, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And it goes through like the first week in October. So every weekend there's a village and a church that is going to have a feast.
Sure.
And so for those that love to go to feasts, you're going to see flowered carpets set up throughout the village. It's always like the big feast is always on a Sunday. But leading to the feast, there's like other like music and dancing and all of that food, all these things that you can find in the village. Well, my family was staying there. And one morning, I think it was like a Saturday morning, if I'm not mistaken, all of a sudden I hear like gunshots. Like, boom. I'm like, oh my God, what the heck was that? And then I'd hear it again. And it was like, oh my God, like, what the heck is going on? And it's that village's announcement that they're having a feast. And you go, wow, only here would we have like these, it almost looked like cannons, but it was like gunshots going up and announcing that, hey, it's our turn this weekend, and woohoo, like, we're here, boom, we're gonna start, kind of thing. And then when, of course, I'm asking my cousin, like, what the heck, what's going on? Like, I hadn't heard that, and, like, it's their announcement that a feast is going to begin.
Excellent. And last question, Maria.
Yes.
If you had to summarize the Azores in just 3 words, or San Miguel in just 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
A hidden gem.
Excellent. Excellent. Our guest again has been Maria Lawton from AzoreanGreenBean.com, and Maria's Portuguese table on PBS. And Maria, do you have any particular resources that we should send people to on your sites or on your show if they want to learn more about the Azores?
They can absolutely send me an email if they have any certain questions that they want to, or as for resources or questions that they might have, they can email me. They can go on my website and email me. Every time I do go on a trip, I try to put out there as much as I can for information for people to also be able to enjoy what I've enjoyed.
Do you have one particular post we should send people to?
No, just go onto my website and you'll be able to find it there.
Excellent. Well, Maria, thanks so much for coming on Amateur Traveler and sharing with us your love for the Azores.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you again for having me. And I didn't mean to cry. I'm sorry. But you had me crying. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but you had me crying. But yeah, I miss it so much. And especially where this past year,
sure, yeah.
I haven't seen my family there. And I miss that island so much.
First, in news of the community, a special thanks to all of the patrons of the show who help support the show and the ongoing costs of producing Amateur Traveler, including the editing that happens with every episode. That's where most of the Patreon money goes. If you are also interested in supporting the show, you can go to patreon.com/amateurtraveler, as Brett Rapp did this week. And thanks so much, Brett, for being a patron of the show. In a little more personal news, I actually have my 2 shots for the COVID vaccine, so I'm going to be doing a little more traveling. First in California. I just got back from Tiburon, which is north of San Francisco, and we'll be writing about that here over the next week. In terms of what to do there, had a great time on Angel Island and in Tiburon, and look to the blog for more information on that. And then I'm heading down to Paso Robles in a week and a half to go do some wine tasting down in the central coast of California. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to the Galapagos, and that's obviously a bucket list trip, so I'm really excited about that. We're going to be down there with Quasar, so if you're interested in more information about what we're doing, Quasar.com is sponsoring me on that particular trip, and you'll hear more about that on the podcast coming up here in May. With that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to host@amateurtraveler.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com, and thanks so much for listening.
I got to see one more